If you've ever spent hours mixing a track, you know the sound of a chaotic session. It's when your kick drum, bass, and lead synths aren't sitting nicely in the speakers. They're actively fighting each other for space. When you hear that friction, your mix lacks cohesion. The individual tracks might sound great on their own, but they feel completely disconnected when played together. You need a specific tool to tie those elements back into a single piece of music. The problem is, if you're new to mixing, reaching for a compressor to fix this can feel like a guessing game. This decision tree diagnoses your mix. Starting at the top, we look at the core problem. If a single track's volume is erratic, your solution is a standard normal compressor. But if an entire group sounds disconnected, the solution is a mix bus compressor. The job of a mix bus compressor is not to tame a wild individual performance. Its job is to process many sounds at once, adding a layer of glue that pulls the entire arrangement together. Which brings us to Thebus, a completely free mix bus compressor released by Analog Obsession. Analog Obsession claims this $0 tool can outcompete expensive paid plugins, and they are trying to prove it by entirely abandoning the standard industry playbook. The audio plugin market is flooded with vintage emulations, SSL and API copies designed to add heavy analog color to your audio. Thebus actively avoids being a clone of those famous boxes. So the question is, can a highly transparent, fully custom free plugin actually work as your primary mix bus glue, or is the lack of traditional analog color going to hold your track back? Let's look inside Thebus. Instead of modeling existing hardware, Analog Obsession built the architecture of this compressor entirely from scratch. They designed it with two specific sonic traits, a soft knee and a perfectly linear frequency response. This comparison matrix breaks down what those traits mean for your music. Looking at the architecture row, the major benefit is that Thebus glues your tracks without altering the frequency balance. Your tone remains exactly the same. The trade-off is that a linear response won't provide harmonic distortion or artificially inject vintage warmth into sterile digital tracks. If you are relying on a bus compressor to rescue a lifeless mix and add character, Thebus is simply the wrong tool for the job. Moving to the interface, Thebus drops continuous, free-flowing dials for its attack and release controls. Instead, you get 3 fixed attack settings: fast at 0.1 milliseconds, medium at 10 milliseconds, and slow at 30. The release is equally strict. You choose between 50, 400, or 800 milliseconds. Updating our matrix for stepped controls. The positive is that limiting options eliminates option paralysis, drastically speeding up workflow. The trade-off is losing granular control. You can't dial in an exact 14 millisecond attack to perfectly match a highly specific BPM. Analog Obsession made a very clear choice here. They are explicitly prioritizing rapid workflow over surgical, clinical precision. Despite the simple interface, there are advanced routing tools built into this free plugin. The standout is the sidechain filter, which sweeps anywhere from 20 Hz up to 500 Hz. Evaluating this routing on our matrix, the benefit is isolating heavy low-end energy, stopping massive kick drums from incorrectly triggering the compressor. But pushing it to 500 Hz ignores vital low mids, reacting only to the top end, creating a highly unnatural sound. Next to the filter, there is a dedicated mix knob for parallel compression. You use this by driving the input and threshold to squash the signal heavily, crushing the audio peaks, and then dialing the mix knob back to blend that compressed signal subtly underneath your uncompressed audio. Using parallel processing requires strict gain staging discipline. If you aren't careful with your levels, you will introduce phase issues or massive volume spikes, but free tools still require professional technique. Taking all these trade-offs together, we need to answer one final question. Who is Thebus actually built for? This quadrant chart maps out exactly where this plugin sits in the production landscape. Because of its linear response and fixed controls, Thebus lands firmly in the top right quadrant. It is highly transparent and extremely fast to use. That means you should avoid it if you fall into the bottom left, if you demand vintage color, or if you are a power user who requires exact millisecond control over every parameter. Thebus will frustrate you. But it is perfect for producers in the top right. It's an ideal tool for beginners who need a simple interface to glue a mix together, and for pros who want dynamic control that absolutely respects their EQ balance. Thebus's greatest strength is that it refuses to be just another generic vintage clone. It offers a truly custom architecture, built for modern, fast-paced workflows. If it fits your workflow, Thebus is fully cross-platform. It's available right now for Mac Intel, Apple Silicon, and Windows 10 and 11. Before you blindly download another plugin, take a second to evaluate your own tracks against the quadrant chart. Figure out what your mix actually needs first. If you want to keep optimizing your workflow without spending money, I have a dedicated playlist right here on the channel covering high-quality free tools that actually solve production problems. Check that out, and as always, stay creative.